Welcome everyone to Lunch and Learn today. And we have a theme this semester that we're working on for misconceptions of online learning. This was an article that was published by EDUCAUSE, and they noted some misconceptions that people have made about online learning. So we wanted to be able to debunk those misconceptions and provide tools to help people be able to deal with maybe some of the issues that they've faced. However, we also found that when we were looking at these misconceptions of online learning, a lot of these things are applicable to your in-person, hybrid, or online learning situations in any situation that you might like to use the LMS or a computer to support your instruction. So this really is for all faculty, all students, to be able to make sure that you can serve students with some of these great tech tools to help with that effectiveness of their learning. And today is kind of a part two from 2 weeks ago, but this is an installment that if you missed a couple of weeks ago, it's okay. It's not something that if you weren't here before, then you're going to be totally lost, because this is just related. Last time we talked about how there were a lot of difficulties people had found in group work in general, and we focused on D2L tools to be able to form those groups and have a space for that work. But then this week we're talking about some tools that are outside of D2L that can really help with that group work. So we're going to look at some of those group collaboration tools. And we'll just jump right in. And this is Lunch and Learn. I'm Laura, and we have Karianne here also. These are your bite-sized professional development opportunities. And our agenda today, we're going to be talking about Google Docs, Google Jamboard, and Google My Maps. That might be something new, I think. All right. So Karianne, how about this?
Yeah, so right now we're going to think about what do we currently do for collaboration, or have you used these tools for student collaboration? So in the chat, or you can unmute and just say, yes, of course I've used these Google tools, or maybe once or twice, or no, I've never used them. So we've got some yeses, some once or twice. April says she maybe uses them too much. Some, Jill says some. Awesome. So today what we're going to do is talk about how we can, kind of maximize these tools for our students. And, even if it's just keeping things a little bit exciting for ourselves as the instructors and for the students to keep them engaged, but also to encourage that collaboration.
So if we jump right into it, we'll talk about Google Docs first. And really, when Karianne and I were talking about this, we thought, well, Google Docs, a lot of people probably use that. They've thought of it before. But we wanted to talk also about theories behind using Google Docs, because unfortunately, sometimes when we use something like Google Docs, we think it's such a simple tool for collaboration that we might not realize that some of our students haven't had the opportunity to interact with Google Docs before. So when they're using this tool, it might be brand new to them, and they might need just a little bit more support in how to do it. Or perhaps our students or ourselves, we've only used it kind of at a surface level. We don't recognize all of the fabulous abilities that Google Docs actually has as a tool. So we want to dive into some of those and start with this part. Just to make sure that we're having those conversations about helping students be able to access it and really use it effectively. And again, the nice part is, though, with Google Docs, it's an online collaboration tool. Really, you just need a link, and then you can share the link to be able to work either synchronously, so that we can talk to each other and work on the same document, but we don't have to be in the same room, or asynchronously, meaning that maybe I can only get on at 10 o'clock at night after my kids are in bed, but someone else can only get on at 6 in the morning when they're drinking their coffee. So we might not be able to be on at the same time, but we can still work together on our same project. And there's some points to remember. again, not to assume that all students have had that interaction with Google Docs. We have a lot of students who might be considered non-traditional, but really, what's traditional anymore, right? But we also want to make sure that maybe we give them some of those tips and tools that we're going to talk about today, and maybe teach students explicitly, how do we find this document in our drive again after we've opened it, after it's been shared with us? So just some of those thoughts. And I do have an example for you here about how Google Docs could be used in a class. This comes from this website that's down here in the corner, and Karianne can pop that in there for you. That's on that shared doc also. And this is really talking about being able to assign a task, and this is in that academic realm. So it could be a theme analysis or a passage analysis, something that's a debating topic. My background is really in English and reading primarily, so I tend to gravitate towards some of those examples, but I work very hard to try to also help us see some other ways. But this is the time that students get to maybe use that chat section or that area with the comments to interact about the page, and also letting them know about, again, how they can work together. And when you have access to this document as the instructor, you can pop in periodically to be able to help ensure that they move in the right direction for the assignment as well, depending upon how you assign it or what your expectations are as their instructor. So we'll go ahead and we'll hop into it. I did want you to be able to see, it's nice when there's more than one person in the document at the same time. In case you haven't had this experience, you can see their little pictures at the top. You can see names about where they are on the page. So it makes it really nice for that interaction to be able to help make sure that students can see and know that, oh, I can actually chat with someone right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into our shared Google Doc. So Karianne's going to go ahead and drop this link for this document into the chat for you so that you can join me here. You can see Karianne is already here. And now look, oh, we have new people coming in. Excellent. So the link is successful. So that's fabulous. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the things you can do with Google Docs, though. For instance, at the top, this is a link. It's a descriptive link. It tells you exactly what it is. I was inspired by this site to be able to give some of this information and then even be able to give this table. So I probably would want to also put in some APA citation or something like that for this as well. But this is one way that I wanted you to be able to access the information that I'm doing. Looking at community building in the classroom as inspired by Columbia University. So what I did is I took some of that information, I kind of paraphrased it. Since we are sharing this doc, one of the things that you can do with me as we develop this is, for instance, if you said there are 3 broad categories, maybe you want to say, you know what, instead of categories, maybe you want to say, add your comment. And you can say, this could say areas. And then now, because you've given me that comment, I can see that, and then I can interact with you for those comments. So we could have an entire string of conversation here, and I could say, oh, but I like categories better. Do you have a different suggestion than area? We might have different things. Once I've decided that this has been resolved, I can hit the check mark, and then it's gone. But if I need to see it again, here's my little comment, and I can find you can see we were practicing in this document too, so there were old comments in it, but you can see the chain of comments that were there as well. So that's also a nice feature to help when you are looking for those comments. Another thing that I think is fairly new is you can add an emoji. If I really like this community building strategies, so I'm going to say, excellent, here's a big smile. So you can add an emoji. Feel free to kind of play with some of the tools. If you would like to add some things to our document, that is fine. You're welcome to interact with it. That's why we're in here. I can resolve that, or I can delete it, and I can say, okay, thank you, we got it, we're good, and make the document clean. Another thing that is fairly new, I believe, with Google Docs, because it wasn't there when I was working on my dissertation, because we were always in Word, which, by the way, if you would like some Word information, how to work with Microsoft, there will be most likely a OneDrive and Office 365 kind of presentation during the reading days. So look forward to that. But in this section, it says editing over here in the corner. We can change that to suggesting. And now it works just like track changes in Microsoft Word. So that's kind of nice. So if I said here, maybe instead of this categories, now if I said I wanted it to be ideas, if I start typing it, see how it still maintains categories so I can see it. But now it tells you that I've put in ideas as a suggestion. If I like that as an author, I can hit a check mark and say, oh, I'm going to accept it, and it will change it for me. If I don't like it, I can always hit the little X and make it go away. Say, no, I like categories better, and I can keep it. Any questions so far? Okay. And those are some real basic things. And this is the other thing I can do now is I have this is great. Do you notice how this says reply or add others with an at? So if I wanted to, I could say at, and I typically you do that with people who are in the document anyway, but you can add other people too. But if I want to draw someone's attention to it, I can say Karianne. I can say Jen loves this, right? And then now that's going to draw attention for Karianne, and it's going to send her an email to this address to let her know that I made a comment on this document so that she can come into it and be able to check out what that is and be able to respond to me as well. So it's really nice. We can start to carry on conversations with each other in this area as well. And another way that we can collaborate, look up here in this corner, there is a video camera there. Carrie and I checked this out yesterday. I think I'm going to have you kind of trust me. But one of the nice things is we can all of a sudden have a Google Meet around this document. So now you have Zoom meetings, you have team meetings. Yay, here's a Google Meet. It's another way, but it might be useful. But right now we're Zooming and sharing this document, so you really don't have to use it. But if you like it, it's an option that's there for you. And then what happens is your little video face pops up here on the corner, and we can share the doc and we can chat with each other while we're editing this document together. So you can do it in text time, or you can do it live with video. And of course, there's lots of ways to do that, but I just wanted you to be able to see that that is available as an option. You want some more excitement now? Okay, yes. Here we go. So one of the things that this website talked about were social icebreakers and being able to look at building your community through social icebreakers. I know that I have a room full of people here who have lots of experiences with creating things like this. So if we scroll down to this area, social icebreakers, or guess what? We don't have to scroll because see this little bookmark that I set up? If we click up here, because there's a bookmark and click bookmark, it will take us immediately there. So this is one of the things that if you have a document you want to create for your students to use, and it has and maybe group 1 is going to work on social icebreakers, but group 2 is going to be working on those metacognitive icebreakers or metacognitive activities, you can set up bookmarks to help them jump between those. In this table, there are areas for you to fill in a social icebreaker. So if you have one that you'd like to share with us, feel free to type in this document to be able to have that experience as well. And while you're typing, I wanted to show you one more thing that I can add. I can add a return to, oops, I need to get out of suggesting. Editing. There we go. I'm going to hit this X. Okay. Return to top. So now if I have lots of things that it's growing because my students are contributing to it, I can set that bookmark. I highlight the words that I made, and then I go up to insert, and I choose bookmark. Then that has created this bookmark. Then in order to make sure that I know where I'm going to go, I need to make sure that there's a bookmark up here. And I'm going to say that this community building strategies, I'm going to also be able to insert that as a bookmark. So now when my bookmark goes there, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to insert a bookmark there. I'm going to delete that bookmark. Instead, I want to insert a link. So if I click on that and I insert link, I can choose bookmark from there. And I have that community building strategies at the top. Now, when I click there, it'll take me back to the top of the document. So as your document grows and expands, it's easy to help your students get back to the top by putting in that little link to this bookmark. This is how you can use bookmarks and how you can teach your students too. I used a lot of Google Docs myself when I was working on my dissertation, that I would take the course syllabus. I stuck it into a Google Doc so that as resources were shared, I could pop them into the correct places in the syllabus, and I created all these little things so I could move around in it. So that was my personal use for it, just to give you another idea of how it could be suggested. So far, so good. All right, with a thumbs up or a thumbs to the side or a thumbs down, have I given you something that you didn't know before in Google Docs? Oh, yay. Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. Okay. Are there any other questions or thoughts about Google Docs before we move on? Okay. All right, Karianne, I'm going to give it back to you for that next slide.
So as we wrap up talking about Google Docs, think about and hopefully share, how could you use Google Docs in the future as a collaborative tool for your students? How would you use it, or how have you used it in the past? The idea here really is just, for all of us to share our own ideas and hopefully build then a repository where, you're like, oh, April had this great idea that she did in her class, and maybe I could adjust that for my class. So how could you, how would you, or how have you used Google Docs to collaborate with your students? And again, you can unmute or share in the chat.
Hi, I haven't used Google Docs, but I definitely think that I could. I currently use Padlet. I think I might be saying it wrong. With the students. So we do something, I'm in the nursing program with the students, and what I typically do is I call them warm-up exercises. So they have to do a lot of critical thinking. So they have different scenarios. So I separate them into groups, and then I give them the beginning of the scenario and they have to unfold it. But I think that I could very easily put it on here where the groups could have bookmarks to go specifically to what it is, and then maybe type what they're unfolding underneath of it. And that might be a way to be able to incorporate it.
Definitely. Excellent, Kim. In the chat, Jennifer shared that she has used Google Docs so that students can build a case brief together by working in sections and groups. And Jill said that the learning community uses it to share resources and project ideas. April said it can be a great tool for peer revision and writing assignments, speeches, or scripts. And Amber says she's used Google Docs for students to work on a group project, which allows her to see progress. Yes. And the beauty of that is you can see who has contributed what if you look into the, the history of the document.
And if you want to be able to look into the history of the document, that is where you can go under File and Version History. And you can see the version history there. So you might have someone who accidentally deleted 3 pages. They highlighted it by accident, they hit delete, and they think that it's gone, and undo didn't help them, it didn't fix it. So you can actually go into the different versions. You can see who had contributed at each time and be able to determine which one that you'd like to use. If you click on one of them, for instance, you can see that there was one I had highlighted it when it saved it. It has automatic saves in it, right? And maybe this was one that I renamed yesterday. So if this was one that, okay, this was the one we had a meeting together in our group, this was our meeting, and this was the accepted version as of, and then you put the date, then that way we know that if things are done after that, then we knew we agreed on this one. But then maybe we did a brainstorm, inspiration, and we create some new versions of it. And then this is the one that we can see here and be able to see different contributions to that. You like that version history? I like that a lot. Excellent. All right, and we have people who've written papers together with Google Docs and had students be able to use Google Docs to submit assignments. Excellent. Because of format, Google Docs helped make it easier for the instructor to open the paper, the format. Excellent ideas. Thank you so much for sharing those. All right. And when you were mentioning Padlet, Kim, that was another one that we thought about being able to talk about today as well for collaboration. And we thought, well, it's hard to talk about everything and put it in there. So thank you for bringing that up, though, so that people could be inspired. And if someone has that link handy to our reference guide for Padlet, we can stick that into the chat in case someone wants to learn some more about that. All right. And we're going to talk about Google Jamboard. And Karianne also mentioned that you can force the copy for Google Docs, and we're going to talk about with Jamboard also. So that if you have something that's kind of like your template, you don't want students to change it, we're going to give you that idea of how do you give them the file, but then they make a copy that they would work on, and you get to maintain your original. You don't have to recreate the wheel every time.
And you don't have to worry about the students messing up your copy.
Yeah.
Sometimes happens.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah, for getting that link in there for us. All right, so then we have Google Jamboard. If you, and again, I had someone who mentioned Jamboard that they had used it before. Real quick, thumbs up. Have you used Jamboard before? Do you know what I'm talking about? Couple people. Okay. It is like an online whiteboard. So it's a place where people can work together. It's just a white rectangle, but you can thread a few of those rectangles together. So that's kind of a nice part about Jamboard. And it's a great place for brainstorming new ideas and for collecting the ideas of the group. And again, it's similar to a Google Doc. You're just sharing that link so that people can access it. Some of the things to remember is that if you have multiple people accessing it, you have to kind of decide how you want to set it up. And I'll show you that example of what I mean. You can force a copy so that if you have a research guide, for instance, you could force a copy so that students can each do their own, or small groups could each do their own. And then again, you still need to help students figure out, how do I find this page again? So really giving them some of those ideas. Here's what a Jamboard could look like. So for instance, you might have 3 different students responding about their pet of choice. We've got 2 dogs and a cat here, but these boards can be strung together now so that we can have that gallery discussion, that gallery showing, without having a whole bunch of different files, different formats. How do we get there? This puts them all in one place. So let's take a look at a Jamboard. Here's one for us. So this is an all about me, and the link, excellent. I see that I've got people joining already. Thank you so much for that. But before we start working on this, let me tell you a couple of things. So right now, I only have 1 page for this all about me. This is really hard for us to all respond because we have 12 of us, I think, if I'm doing the math right. So for us to all respond on 1 page, it would be a little unwieldy. We'd have a lot of things. So I wanted to show you how you could do this, create this page, and then make copies of it. Now, I would like to point out, I'm kind of proud of this page. I think it looks pretty. I made it in Canva. If you would like to know how to make things in Canva, come next Friday, and Coffee Talk is going to talk about using Canva. So just to kind of put that out there for you, or if you need some help sooner than that, contact April or Hillary for a Make It Take It session this Friday, or of course you can always reach out to Karianne or I, and we'll help you out too. But we've got some resources for you available. So if I click up here on this 1 of 1, it tells you I've got 1 little page here. I can, this is the nice thing, I created this background and I like this background. I want to use it again. I go up to these more buttons here and I say duplicate. Now I have 2 of those pages. Since there's 12 of us, I would create 12 of those pages so that we could do it. Come on. Now it doesn't want to help me. There we go. Duplicate. And we'll duplicate. So you can see how you can easily do this for your entire class of 20 students, or however many you have. I would do this typically I would have had it set up before you came, but I wasn't sure exactly how many people would be here anyway. And I thought it was important to show you how you could do it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and go in and claim some pages and be able to enter some information. If you're not sure of what to do, though, keep your eyes on the screen. And if you find that I didn't create enough pages, go ahead and just duplicate, make a new page for yourself. It's fine with me. In this one, if you want to be able to put just a note there, my favorite movie is, here is a little sticky note. So if you know what to do, go ahead and you can fill in your page. If you don't, keep your eyes on me, okay? I can fill out my little sticky note and I can type, I don't know, Titanic. I saw that one is coming to some streaming something, so I thought that was interesting. I can choose the color that I want and I can click save. And then when I click on the screen, I can move that wherever I want to. I can make it kind of. Oh, is it view only?
Yeah, we've got.
Oh my goodness sakes. You can't add to this yet then.
That's the one we didn't test yesterday. We tested all the other ones.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So now let's stick that in there. Well, good. Then I was forcing you to watch me. There we go. Okay. All right.
And learning that this happens to us too in CCIT. We forget to change it from view to editor. And so then the students are like,
But did you notice how fast that was though? How quick and easy it was. What I did is I went up to the share button and then I said anyone with the link. And this was my choice, editor or viewer. I could choose and I needed to choose edit. So just so you know how easy it can be. It doesn't have to be stressful. Oh, you can only view it. Okay. And then you go fix it. It's no big deal. No stress. I can also put images in if I want to. So my last search had been for this dog. So this one looks a little bit like my dog. So I could say that my favorite animal is this dog. And then I could put that on my Post-it note as well. So those are some different things that you can do. One of the things that if I just want to do text, so D2L is, refresh. Refresh. Excellent. And which one is yours, Sarah? Huh? Page 1. Okay, cool. There we go. Yeah, I wasn't on page 1. There we go. Oh, yay. So we've got a badger if you're on page 1. The nice thing is when we're sharing these things, is that a badger? It is, right? Yeah. The nice thing is,
hold on, that's not really my favorite animal, but if you've ever YouTubed the honey badger, it's the most hilarious thing. So.
Well, the honey badgers, I just remember the Wildcrats episode. But the other thing you can do is you can take the text box, which is over on that side. You can start typing. So if you don't want to make a Post-it note, you don't want to make an image, you can just type in your idea. D2L is better than Jello. I don't know. I mean, whatever you think. So you can have some fun with it, right? These are just supposed to be some interesting ways, things that you can do. And apparently, from when I was doing research for this too, this little shapes thing here, if you end up wanting students to use some kind of shapes in some project that you're doing, that apparently is fairly new. They weren't able to do that before. Yay. So you can have some fun with that too. And there's a laser pointer for you so that if you want to draw their attention to something, or if they're presenting, because that's what we'll do. We'll choose randomly. Someone tell me that you want us to look at your page, like Sarah did to see her honey badger.
Oh, you can.
One more person.
Page.
All right,
Page
Karianne,
2.
which one are you? 2? Okay.
Page 2.
So here's Karianne. She apparently, now Karianne, you can go ahead and present it to us. So if we all look at page 2 at the same time, or if you go back to your Zoom where I'm sharing the screen, you'd be able to see this together. The nice thing about the Jamboard is you can navigate straight back to that page and have it open in your own viewer too. Okay, go ahead, Karianne.
So my favorite movie, I tried to find images of it, but then it just came up with hunting images. So my favorite movie, the one I can think of is Good Will Hunting. Things I love are naps. This actually could be a picture of me on the couch napping. And then my favorite thing about my job is my coworkers and my boss.
Her boss is here.
And one time cold. You guys are. I do love you though. This is not a lie.
I think that's great. Thank you so much. Do we have one more person who wants to share? No? Okay. If I were in my class with students, we would probably have this so that everyone would have their opportunity to be able to share. Or because it's available as a gallery walk, you really don't have to have every person share. Remember how you have those beginning of the year kind of things, the beginning of the semester kind of activities. This is a way that people can share all of their ideas, and you could highlight one or two and be able to still feel that connection, learning about each other, but not necessarily have to spend 45 minutes of your first course meeting doing those things. So this is community building. Good so far? All right, I'm going to show you this one that is more academically based. So go ahead and please move back to your screen for Zoom so that you can see this. You are welcome to go to that Jamboard that I'm showing right now also. You'll notice in that link that at the end of it, after the last slash, it says copy. When I first went to the share for that, and it says copy the link that I would have copied would have said like edit and then like an equal sign and a bunch of stuff. Delete all of that stuff, write the word copy in before you share the link, and you will force that copy. So what happens if you click on the one in the chat that Karianne made, it'll say make a copy, and then yours will be fresh. Okay, so all I did for this one was create something. For instance, this is a research guide. One of the things is that there are 3 pages here. This would get really messy if I had 20 students in my class and I wanted to create copies of this because I have 3 and then 3 and then 3 and then 3, or it would get really messy. So I forced that copy instead, so that when you opened it either individually or if I said Miranda and Jennifer are partners, then when, for instance, Miranda would open it, she could share it with Jennifer and the 2 of them could work on it together. It does mean that there is that one extra little step that when Miranda forces the copy, then she can share that with her partner. Like they'd have to decide who was in charge. But Miranda and Jen could both have a copy, but to collaborate, they have to work on one shared copy. So that's the one caveat. But you can still, I think, be able to see kind of the value in how you would be able to share out this information easily to the students, and then they could still have kind of your template copy to work with. So this is like an academic reason. So the other one was like a community builder, the all about me kind of thing. This one is looking at how I could use my APA citations. So I give them some information and then I give them a chance to practice it. And of course they can put a sticky note on it, or they can put whatever information on there to be able to develop that. All right, so I think you know what the questions are going to be when Karianne moves on to the next one.
So thinking about Jamboard, how might you, would you have you use Jamboard in your courses? Whether using it as community building or content, when Laura was sharing that content, I was thinking, we have just reinvented a handout. It's basically a handout, an electronic handout that students can then, obviously put in videos and images and all kinds of other stuff besides text. But how might you use this, or how have you used it?
I haven't used this, but so in the first year seminar, we do an introduction discussion board or discussion. So I think this might be more fun than doing that discussion board. And then there's another activity that we do when we talk about growth mindset that, they get 3 scenarios. And so what I've been doing in class is everybody's in a group, but for an online class, I could do this, or even in person, I could do this. And then, everybody can answer their suggestions and resources that each for each scenario, and just pop in something. But I really like this for the intro board too.
Excellent.
And in the chat, Amber says she uses a lot in Zoom classes for accounting practice problems that they can do together. That way she doesn't have to go back and forth on screens. And that's great. You don't want to have to try to paste I don't want to do accounting problems anyway, but certainly don't want to have to try to paste them back and forth. And then Jennifer says, community building, allowing students to use Post-its for ideas and fact sorting, which is another great use of it. And I do think students, they want to interact, and this, it can be very scary for a student to speak up in class, especially after 2.5 years of COVID. So allowing them to use some creativity and to put images and to put their thoughts and share it in a way where they can kind of think about it beforehand can be really helpful and encouraging for collaboration.
Thank you. We have some really great ideas that are coming up about the possibilities of Jamboard. And even if you just use it to kind of shake some things up every once in a while. I mean, any of these tools, you might not use them for everything because, then it becomes old and boring also. So it's nice to kind of be able to pepper some things in. But I would choose only maybe 2 or 3 of these kinds of ideas in a course, because if you're constantly teaching them how to do the technology, then that's kind of taken away too. So really figure out which ones work the best for you, for what you're trying to do. And then that gives you this opportunity. So we're going to look at Google My Maps. All right, again, thumbs up, thumbs down. Have you heard of it? Do you know what to do with it? Oh, good. I'm seeing some shaking heads. And it's because I threw that my in there, right? I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Google Maps, right? But now you get to make your own. And it's very exciting. So one of the reasons also could be the novelty of that tool, because a lot of your students probably wouldn't have had this interaction either. So that will make it encouraging and exciting. Again, it's easy to share the links. We found it was a little less easy, but then it's still okay. It's not too bad. There's an extra step. We want to remember, you might want to provide a little tutorial video in that shared document that Karianne gave you, that gave the resources at the beginning. There are lots of little tutorial videos in there to give you ideas, ones that you might find useful for your students as well. It's a nice possible alternative to a timeline. I'll show you why. And then again, think about being able to find that in Google Drive. All right, so Google My Maps. When you open up your map, it's going to look something like this to start with. So let's go ahead and hop into a My Map. By the way, I did want to show you this part just because I think it's important. When I open this up, I type in Google My Maps. Oops, you have to spell it correctly though. My Maps. Then I go to My Maps at Google here. You'll see it's long. It's google.com, maps, about, My Maps is how you get there. So I just Google it. And then I hit Get Started. When I hit Get Started, I'll be able to see a big blank map like what I had just shown you. Because I have some already, I have these little ones that show up. I just have to create new map and it will open me up to here. But I'm going to show you some things that I've made with it and have you be able to contribute to them. So the first one that I made was a Where Would You Go? And that Karianne just dropped the link in there for you so that you can get to this map. One of the things that you'll want to do when you get to the map, you'll notice there's a big old search bar. And when you get to this search bar, you can put a pin on a map like I did for this hot springs in Iceland. You can do that by clicking where you want to go if you choose this little pin. See how it says add marker? It looks like that Google marker. If you choose that, if that's gray around it, if it's a little darker around it, that means you have chosen it. You can click somewhere and be able to put the point on there. But if you want to be more specific, type in that search box, Paris, France, or something like that, right? I can click that I want to go to Paris, and now it's opened up Paris. If I click Add to Map, then now the excitement begins because I have this little tile here and I get to edit it. I can use this little pencil to edit it. So I have Paris, because this is our community builder, things like that. I want to claim it. So I'm going to put my name next to it, Laura, so that you know that this was me talking about this. Inside this description, I can also instruct students, let us know why. Why do you want to go there? I love, I don't know, I'm taking a chance here because I'm not sure if I'm spelling it right, but I love baguettes. Okay.
That looks right.
Okay. And then now I've been able to add that. I can click save. And now I have something that says Paris. It's Laura who wants Paris, and I love baguettes. But guess what? Do you notice how I have a purple one, an orange one, a blue one? I can change my little icon on the map too, so that I can go to this little paint can. If I click on the paint can, I can choose the icon that I want. And they have older icons too from old maps that look like this, if you want big colorful ones. But otherwise, I can say, see these ones, and these are the newer ones. If I want to look for something in particular, I can, type in, I want food, because I talked about baguettes there, whatever. Maybe I want this knife and a spoon. I can click on it and I say, okay. And then it changed it for me. And I can change the color if I want to whatever color I think works best with a knife and spoon or with what I'm trying to do here. And it changed it for me. Here's the pièce de résistance, since we're talking about Paris, right? I can also go to this camera and I can add an image that I upload from my computer, because I went to France and I have a beret on my head in front of the Eiffel Tower. I can upload my own picture of me telling you that this was a beautiful place to go. I can also do a Google image search for Paris and decide that I want to put in this picture. All I have to do is hit select, and then, oh, where did it go? Oh, there it is. It just took a little while to load. And then it will put the picture in there for me. And if I click save, then now my picture is going to show up. I can also add a video. So if there's something with information, this YouTube search, I can go there and I can say, okay, how about Paris? And I can choose a video. Here is, a Paris travel guide, best things to do in Paris. The only thing I don't like is it doesn't really preview the video. So I'm kind of taking my chances when I choose one here. But here's what I can do. If I hit select, it enters it. Now I can watch it in here, see what it says about it. And if I say, oh, that's not the one that I wanted, all I have to do is hit this little garbage can and I can get rid of it. So it's easy. And then I click save. The nice thing is then when I say, oh, Karianne wants to go to Japan, let's see what she said. It jumps me to Karianne's Japan button, and it shows that she has this picture here. And she says, Japan, Karianne. If I want to see Pauline's Great Wall of China, it'll jump me over there. And look, it's hidden behind there. All I have to do is make sure I have the hand selected and I can drag it around so I can see it better. And I can see the picture that Pauline put in there.
And visit pandas. She also wants to visit pandas.
Oh, yep. And visit pandas. So that's her comment that she had put in there, which is lovely. All right. And we're going to delete this one because that was my random point. Anyone care to add something to the map?
And I did add one, but I don't know if you need to refresh, Laura.
Let me refresh.
I did too, and I don't see mine.
There it is. Yay!
Yay!
Okay, I hit refresh. So that, just remember to refresh often when your students are doing it. And if you're doing it, when you have the map open, when you hit refresh, you'll be able to see those grow as well, and your students will be able to do it. So remind them that we all want to be refreshed, right? So look, we've got Amber's next dream vacay. Ooh, where is that? Ooh, in the West Indies?
Oh, nice.
Nice. Oh. And we've got Miranda's going to Sweden with a puppy dog print. Here's Jen's. She's by West Caicos. Where are you? Oh, so it looks like Amber and Jen are going to a similar area. They're just on other sides of the island. So that's nice. So this is a nice little way that you could use this for community builder. We can start to learn about each other and start to learn about places that we might have in common. So maybe Jen and Amber would want to partner for an activity that we'd have later. So you could base some of your partnerships on some similarities that you discover through this as possible. So that's just some thought. All right. Who is ready for the academic purpose of this? Who is ready?
Yay.
Yeah, get psyched. It's awesome. Okay, here we go. I'm so excited about this. So we looked at this and we said, you know what? Let's think about how we could use this. And this is kind of that alternative for a timeline. So we put in a few things here that show you civil rights events that happened. And we also created layers. So you'll see that this has an add layer. So these are layers that I could put in there. This was pre-1960. These were a couple of things that happened before 1960. And these were some things that happened after 1960. If I click the after 1960, they go away. So that now only the check mark is next to pre-1960. These are the activities that happened then. When I click on them, I can see, okay, Montgomery, Alabama, that happened December 1955 to December 1956. We had the Montgomery bus boycott. And I put a picture in there. So you can see in that descriptive area, though, you could have your students creating, some research opportunities there so that they really have that chance to put that information in there to be able to share what they're understanding, what they're learning about this. And then the neat thing is also, if we want to say, well, how far apart were these things in Arkansas to Alabama? Here's a ruler tool. If you click on the ruler tool and you click on one place, and then I'm not even dragging, I'm just clicking over here. I can see, well, that's about 385 miles apart. If you had a reason to map two things, maybe you're doing some survey courses, maybe you're doing some other kinds of mapping activities, or maybe you're just trying to figure out how the path would have gone, and then you just click a different tool when you want to get rid of it. If I put in all of them, I also noted that really the timeline shows that it went further north over time. You can also put, a driving map on there by using this line thing to add a line or a shape or add a driving route between two places. And really for your own personal uses, if you want to create this for your own activities and you wanted to go visit a certain place, like maybe you wanted to go to Montgomery, Alabama, and you want to look into that city, if there were locations that you wanted to visit personally, you could create your own walking tour in here. Now with Google Maps, you can do that with add stop, things like that. But this is kind of a fun way that you could also put in there. For instance, instead of carrying your guide with you, you could put your pictures in there and the information of the sites you want to see. So you could also have your students create a walking tour of an area, some of those kinds of things. All right, so let's go ahead and Karianne, you are going to be on again.
So this may be a little trickier. Laura had asked me originally, for history, I, teach history. For history, how would we use it? And maybe we do have some, advantage there to get it built into history. But, what might you use this for in your courses? We said, I don't think anyone has used it before, but thinking about your courses, are there any areas, whether it's community building or content, that you think you could use?
So Amber replied for an icebreaker.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jennifer, mapping the crime scene and sequence of events. I love it. That would be amazing. Frequency of data, geography class. Yes. Laura and I were talking about the dismal state of most Americans' knowledge of geography. So I feel like any use of maps could be helpful.
Well, and that layer opportunity too. So I was thinking about, I have seen some of these with the layers created, those maps that you have, for instance, energy use in different areas, or even inventions that were used at the time, like which ones were used at different times and in different locations, or tracking scientists, inventors, and their contributions to our understanding of how to solve problems. That could be.
For healthcare, you could talk about, let's say, like access to healthcare, and you could pick a state or a country and talk about statistics related to access of healthcare there. Or if we were talking about math, we could talk about the farthest place you've ever been from home, and map that, and then kind of plot it on a graph to see who's been the farthest, what's the average for the class. Getting so excited about maps.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So here's kind of our summary. So really, this is kind of a call to action. I think it's a great way to sum up what we've done. We talked about Google Docs, we talked about Google Jamboard, and Google My Maps. So if we're going to think about those 3 tools and kind of the way to use them, which tool will you use next? So you can type that in the chat or you can unmute. Which one will you use next? You can type the word or you can do 1, 2, 3. Oh, we've gotten all of them.
My Maps.
Oh,
Jennifer
and
likes
My
the
Maps.
Yep, 3.
Excellent. We've
Google
got a My
Jamboard.
Maps, a Jamboard. Yay.
Mhm.
Oh, that's fabulous. We've got a Docs or a Jamboard. Excellent. I'm glad that you were able to find some inspiration. But ultimately, we do want to thank you for coming. And we're so glad that you joined us for Lunch and Learn today. And we hope that you have a fabulous day.